Hey everyone, what's going on? Zephin here. Just wanted to show you some behind the scenes of today's live stream, give you a little idea of what our setup is like. So I'm going to switch the camera around and point some things out to you and just explain what's going on. All right, sound good? Today's live stream is going to be for a business coach, a financial coach, and it's here in my studio. So I'm going to take you out here and show you our look. So here's the studio. We've got this beautiful fake wood backdrop that my friend built for me. And behind these uprights, we have some LEDs so we can change the color. Her color is purple. And we'll put purple up for her. Putting a little backlight here just helps to separate her when she's standing here from the backdrop. So let's turn it around this way. We've got our key and fill lights up here. There's our fill. Our key, that's a Aperture 120D Mark II, I believe. This is a panel from Photodiox. And then I haven't plugged it in yet, but all the way up here, we have a couple of hair lights in the ceiling that also help to separate from the backdrop. Behind those lights, this is a really cool just behind the scenes camera. One of the things it allows me to do is I can monitor where she's at. I can see if any cables or cords come loose. I can see if any screens go dark for whatever reason. It just gives me an awesome shot to see everything happening in this room. And it's also a shot that I can cut away to every once in a while on the live stream since people are starting to show a little more behind the scenes. So left to right here, we have 3 TV screens. This one isn't on yet, but this is going to be her PowerPoint slides. I've got an adapter down here on the desk ready to go so she can just plug in with a USB-C to HDMI. Then this HDMI adapter is feeding down the side here, and I've taped a splitter onto this. Why have I done this? Well, because I want a feed of the slides going to me, and I want a feed going to this TV that's right next to the main camera. That way, she can kind of talk from the slides and peer off just a little bit to the side to see them, make sure she's on the right slide. And then, of course, that feeds back to me into my switcher. The second screen is for a virtual guest. So one of the features that we have in this live stream today is we will have a second Zoom. We're streaming to Zoom as the live show, but I have a second backend Zoom that I created on a separate account. And that Zoom is going to feature both a DJ to DJ over the breaks, but also virtual guests that she can see and talk with. And that feed, I'll show you behind the scenes, but that feed is being split off to this TV as well as to my switcher, so I can go into Zoom, pin somebody full screen to this screen, and take them full screen in my switcher, and she can see and talk to them here. Now, how can she hear them? Because obviously we don't want this sound to bleed through to the shotgun microphone that's right overhead. Well, what I've done is I've taken tiny computer speakers, they're actually sitting back here on top of the TV, and these plug in just with a headphone jack. The TV has a headphone jack. Most TVs these days typically do. And these are just on low enough that you can hear what the virtual guest is saying, but it's not loud enough that this shotgun mic, which is very directional, is really going to pick it up. So if she's seated right here, she'll be able to see them, hear them, and then this mic, because it's kind of at an angle towards her, it mostly cuts out the sound. So the trick there is just to keep that volume as low as you possibly can, with the guest that's here in person still being able to hear just a little bit of what's going on, enough so that they can talk back and forth with them. Now, the alternative, and this is something we've done in the past, is we'll actually use an IFB earpiece where instead of speakers, we'll run a cable out of either that TV or my mixer from the back, and it's an XLR cable, and it's going to go into a little device that kind of just gets taped onto the back of the chair, and it feeds out to an earpiece, and it gives her a little amplifier knob so she can turn the volume up or down. The only reason we're not doing that today is because in the past, she's gotten finicky with it. She starts to mess with it. It falls out of her ear. So I'm trying to avoid that as best as possible and just stick with her being able to listen through those little speakers back there. Hopefully it doesn't cause too much echo. I can also adjust the sound levels of her boom mic in the back. So if I need to turn her volume down just a little bit to try to avoid picking up the speakers, then I can tweak that in the back. Last but not least, this TV right here, and I've got all these labeled, by the way. If you notice, I've got some masking tape and I just put labels on the bottom so she doesn't get confused. This is going to be the live show, and since the live show is streaming to Zoom, this is basically just feeding what you would see within the Zoom window, and that's because she's going to be interacting with her attendees through chat, so she'll ask them to post things in the chat window, so that way she'll be able to see the chat window here. And since it'll be the Zoom screen, she'll be able to see which camera is active. So she'll know if she's live, she'll know if her PowerPoint slides are up. That's really the easiest way for me to show her a as close to live as possible video feed, because the program feed coming out of my ATEM in the back is being used for other means. So that is a little bit of the setup here in the studio. Just running some power cables down here. These Velcro thingies on the floor, I can't recommend them enough. They Velcro down to the carpet and you can hide all your cable runs. And basically, all of my cable runs go through the wall back here. So I've got quite a few HDMI fiber cables that are about, I think they're maybe 40 feet long. Maybe one XLR cable that's for the shotgun mic. There's an SDI cable. And the HDMIs go both ways. So like, the fiber cable itself is one directional, but I have like 2 or 3 that run out and 2 or 3 that run in. It all just goes through the wall, through this little patch panel down here. So let's take you guys to the green room. It's actually the same room as the studio room. So her husband, my client's husband, who just kind of helps out, he'll be chilling back here. I've got some mints ready for him, some hand sanitizer. One of the things that I like to do is put a little placard in place that has the guest Wi-Fi network, and we'll probably put out a couple water bottles for him. I've got my security camera up in the corner. Wave hi, you're on camera. That's just so that I can monitor my space when I'm not here. And then back this way, if you haven't seen my studio yet, there's some storage. So I store things both in this closet, which is way bigger than it appears, as well as back here. This is just my quick, easy to access stuff. Cables, adapters, converters, things like that. Little kind of complementary area. So we've got a Keurig. We store some coffee and stuff in the drawer, our fridge. I usually try to stock a few things. So I've got like Coke, I've got ginger ale. There's even a couple Bud Lights hidden back there. Whatever the clients want, we'll just keep those on hand. And let's go back to the control room. Okay, so it's a little messy right now because I literally just finished getting all of this stuff set up. But I'm going to go left to right and try to explain things as best as possible. And one thing I do recommend is buying yourself a pack of spike tape so you can actually label all these things because it changes from time to time. So first computer here, this is a Mac Mini and this is our Zoom guest computer. So this is that private back-end Zoom that I created where our DJ, who's going to be DJing the event, is going to call in, but also our virtual guests who will be speaking and being interviewed by our in-person guest. This Zoom is just going monitor 1, that's our main monitor, but then out the back, we're taking a monitor 2 feed, and that's going one of 2 places. So that feed is actually going into this 1-to-4 splitter. I could have used a 1-to-2, this is just what I had available. So display number 2 off of this, imagine there's a second display, is going into this splitter. And the first feed, this yellow HDMI fiber cable, is the one that feeds out to our TV in studio. And that's how she can see the virtual guest. It's the smaller TV just under the camera. The second feed, though, is feeding into our ATEM Mini Extreme. So you can actually see right here on input number 5, I've actually labeled this Zoom 1. So when we have a virtual guest that's called in on Zoom, assuming you have at least 3 users in the call, you gain the ability to pin them to a second display. So technically, that is our second display. It's functioning because of this splitter. Imagine this as the second display, and it's just splitting it both out to there and to the ATEM. The beauty of that is that the audio passes through as well. So that's why we're able to send the audio out to that small TV with the speakers, and then she can hear the guest that she's speaking with. And that's how we're bringing their audio into the ATEM for today. There's a lot of ways you could do that. It didn't have to happen that way. This was just the easiest setup for me for right now. Okay, so that's computer 1. That's our virtual green room, guest room plus DJ. Cool? Computer 2, what I'm doing over here is just testing video playback. So I just pulled up a YouTube video. The reason why I'm using a laptop for video playback is this client does not tend to get me the videos in time to convert them and put them onto a hyperdeck and make sure they're all playing back properly. So it's way easier for me to just like bring these videos over to the computer. And then what I can do is I can just play them full screen in QuickTime. So I'll just queue them up in QuickTime, give it 2 or 3 seconds, the controls will disappear, and then I can just hit the space bar to start playing the video. One thing that I like to do here is I will create a countdown timer that goes as high as 60 minutes. And here's our client now. Hey guys. You made it. I'm shooting a little behind the scenes video showing off our setup. How are you? Come on in, make yourselves comfortable. I'm just finishing a couple of setup things and I'll be with you in just a minute. So back here, this is our video playback computer. And this computer is being used with just a little AV adapter and HDMI out. That's going into the ATEM for video playback. But one of the things that I chose to do was I took the headphone jack output so that our audio is run into our mixer, and that allows me to just monitor the audio levels of the video. And then also I'll talk about the mixer in a minute and why it's important that we ran the video into the mixer. Okay, moving on, this is just our multi-view display. So this allows me to see the multi-view coming out of our main ATEM Mini Extreme. And we've got our inputs there, so they're getting ready. Input 1 is behind the scenes camera. Input 2 is her main camera. 3 is going to be video playback. 4 is her slides. Remember, we split that off to the TV out there and it feeds into here. 5 is Zoom 1, so that's where our virtual guest is going to be pinned full screen. 6 is the potential for a Zoom 2. If I pulled out a second laptop, I could pin a second person. And then this is just black space, nothing in there, and super source, which I will start building out shortly. And our ATEM Mini Extreme plays out the entire program feed, the full event, to this Mac Mini over here. So this is where the main event on Zoom is going to be run, and this is also where the software control is run from to manage the main event. Last computer over here, this is our main attendee computer. So this computer is going to sit in on as an attendee just watching the event, and this is how I'm feeding it to the TV screen out there. But it also gives me control to change this to be anything else. So if I had to route something else to that TV screen out there, I could just put anything else up on this computer. I could bring up the stickies, use it like a teleprompter to send her notes. And that is going HDMI out, and it's going into this splitter, 1-to-2 splitter. So I could take a second feed off, send it somewhere else, which will probably happen if I want to show the chat window to my guests over in the virtual room because they can't see the chat window of the main event Zoom. So the reason why I split that off is because I'm going to send a feed of this into this second ATEM Mini Extreme. And this second ATEM Mini Extreme is actually getting program feed. This is how we're showing a program return feed to our virtual guests. But if I use input 2 on this to send them this computer's feed, I can also send them the chat window from the main room in SuperSource. And here's Terry with the extra laptop today. So that laptop will be in our guest Zoom room showing our DJs and our virtual guests as well. So we'll get that set up here in a minute. And then on our mixer, we've got 2 items. One is this is the main shotgun mic that is on Deb in the main room. And then this is our video playback. So let's talk about how this is getting into the ATEM. We're just taking XLR outputs, the main outputs, and this goes into a 3.5mm input on the ATEM. And then we've got another 3.5mm output so that we can feed both our main guest here in studio and our video playbacks into this second ATEM, which means that our virtual guests, our virtual speakers, our DJ, they can all see and hear both our main guest in studio and our video playbacks. That was something we didn't do last time. Now they can hear the video so they know when the video is done playing. So that is a quick rundown on our setup here. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. And thanks for watching.